Welcome to the program. I'm Andrew Wilkow. Here we are. 20 years have come and gone since the radical Islamic, and I'm saying it like that, radical Islamic terrorist attacks of September the 11th, 2001. Right now, we are airlifting tens of thousands of vulnerable Afghans out of Afghanistan, while Americans have been left behind. Let me say that again. Americans, your fellow citizens are trapped, and the Taliban is making demands for their release. You know what that means? It means they're hostages. Watch.
And so when the administration says that every American that wanted out could get out, that's an absolute lie, because we're working with 27 AMSETs, American citizens, right now, that I assure you all of them wanted out, and we couldn't get them out.
That failure, that's the Biden State Department he's talking about. Now, take a look at this headline. Afghan refugees tweet about food at Fort Bliss receives backlash, ends with change. One of the evacuees actually, I'm not kidding, tweeted this, not complaining, but this is what I got last night for dinner, and the next meal is 12 hours later. Refugee life might be safe, but never easy and favorable. Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. He followed up his culinary complaints with update on the situation at Fort Bliss. We've had several meetings so far with the high USG official in charge of the Afghan refugees resettlement process and Fort Bliss top generals on their request, and they appreciated us for raising the issue, and we're working together now to create a joint initiative with the help of Afghan volunteers in the camp to create a communication and awareness channel on issues like food, safety, hygiene, integration, and so on. Now, look, I have no idea if he ate anything off the plate before taking the pic, but you know what? Look how fast that got fixed. We should all rejoice that this major problem has been solved by the brass. They're on it. If you're sensing a little bit of sarcasm, well, good. That's what I was going for. You know, I would never say that it can't get any worse in Afghanistan, because with Joe Biden, of course it can. But let's be honest, it's bad, really bad. 13 members of our military were killed in a terrorist attack led by a newly minted group called ISIS-K. ISIS-K is a group of savages who broke off from the Taliban because apparently the Taliban wasn't extreme enough. Well, at least they don't wear MAGA hats. No, I'm not trying to be funny there. See, the left-wing Democrat media displays way more outrage at Trump supporters than the animals that now have billions of dollars of our military hardware. And if you need, here's a list. 22,174 Humvees, 634 M117s, 358,530 assault rifles, 64,363 machine guns, 33 Black Hawk helicopters. That's just to name a few of the items on this long list. This would sound insane to any normal person. Add to that, the Biden administration decided to give the Taliban a literal list of Americans and vetted allies still stranded in Afghanistan. No, I'm not making this up. From Politico, U.S. officials in Kabul gave the Taliban a list of names of American citizens, green card holders, and Afghan allies to grant entry into the militant-controlled outer perimeter of the city's airport, a choice that's prompted outrage behind the scenes from lawmakers and military officials. What? You gave cave-dwelling murderous savages the whereabouts of Americans? You gave the people who freed all the ISIS fighters being held in a prison in Kabul intelligence on Americans. Oh, it's all good, right? I mean, because, well, Jake Sullivan says the Biden team chats with the Taliban daily.
We are in talks with the Taliban on a daily basis through both political and security channels.
As I said, Americans are being left behind. Let me just, I can't say it enough, that Americans are being left behind by the Biden administration to be slaughtered. Thousands of unvetted Afghans have been airlifted out at taxpayer expense while actual citizens are trapped. That's right. We're bringing in random Afghans and leaving behind Americans. The Afghans, well, they'll get free housing, health care, education for their kids and themselves, job placement if they want to work, and cash assistance. That is America last right there. Now, who couldn't use a mean tweet right about now, right? President Biden can't even handle basic questions about Afghanistan from the people who love him, the media.
I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead.
Mr. President, on Afghanistan.
I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now.
Can you say for
I have been in the talk radio business for almost 20 years. TV, little less than 10 years. Actually, I got my start in talk radio as our own Mark Levin's fill-in guy back in 2002 when he had a Sunday afternoon show in New York City. In all these years, 15 of which I've been on Sirius XM Patriot, I have never, ever taken a call like this. This is the mother of Riley McCullum, a Marine, a 20-year-old Lance Corporal, one of the 13 killed, calling into my Sirius XM radio show randomly just a couple weeks ago. Now we've cut it down for time, and you can find the full clip if you want online, even on theblaze.com in their write-up. Take a listen. Kathy, Colorado, you're on the Wilkow Majority. Hello.
Hey, my son was one of the Marines that died yesterday. 20 years and 6 months old, getting ready to come home from freaking Jordan to be with his wife to watch the birth of his son. And that feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap just sent my son to die. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning to Marines at my door telling me my son was dead. So my son is gone. And I just want all you Democrats who cheated in the election or who voted for him legitimately, you just killed my son. With a dementia-ridden piece of crap who doesn't even know he's in the White House. He still thinks he's a senator. I just couldn't sit by idly because I think I need to just process through anger instead of tears. And so this is how I'm going to do it. And Laura Boebert's coming to my house tomorrow. My representative will be at my house tomorrow. And we'll speak, and hopefully she'll be able to convey my message to the rest of the United States. That this was, she said, your son did not die in vain, but guess what? My son did die in vain. This was an unnecessary debacle that could have been handled properly. They had months and months to remove everyone from Afghanistan, and they chose not to. And so they sent in freaking, 6,000 troops? And my son, through the laws of statistics, my son was one of the ones who just got blown up in a freaking terrorist bomb yesterday. So I know you'll check it out, and that's fine. So instead of grieving and crying, I'm just getting mad. My son was a genius child, an IQ of 156. He could have done anything he wanted to do in the military, and he chose to be a Marine sniper, and that was his choice. Instead of just, being fast-tracked, he chose this course. But I never thought in a million years that he would die for nothing, because a feckless, dementia-ridden piece of crap decided he wanted a photo op on September 11th. That's what kills me. I wanted my son to represent our country, to fight for my country, but I never thought that a feckless piece of crap would send him to his death and smirk on television while he's talking about people dying with his nasty smirk. The dementia-ridden piece of crap needs to be removed from office. It never would have happened under Trump. And I'm pacing, just so you know, I'm out of breath because I'm pacing. But it is so disgusting that these people cannot even acknowledge the fact that they just killed my son for nothing.
It's impossible to hear that and not tear up a bit. That was raw emotion. About as raw as you can get. That call went on for 8 minutes. And the mom is now being attacked on social media, as am I, for allegedly setting this whole fake call up. You know, it's one thing for a service member to die in combat. And as hard as it is to say, that's the risk of going into combat. Young men and women make the mature choice with eyes wide open when they sign on the dotted line to join the military. But he was not killed taking the fight to the enemy. He was killed manning a post during a withdrawal. At the age of 20, he was not only over there serving our nation, he left behind a wife who was pregnant with their first child. Now look, Joe Biden, the commander-in-chief, he did show up to witness the arrival of the remains of those service members. The other families didn't exactly give him positive reviews on his interactions. And some veterans on social media noted it looked like he couldn't get out of there fast enough. I mean, take a look at that. There he is, checking his watch. I'm not the one pointing this out. This was pointed out by veterans on social media. Everything about Biden's plan for the withdrawal has failed. That's everything. And now even some Democrats are saying that. Just ask Representative Seth Moulton. He also served as a Marine in Afghanistan.
American fighting forces have left, but we still want to get Americans out. We still want to get some Afghan wartime allies out. How do we go about that?
Look, here's the blunt answer, Willie. I don't know, because we don't have a plan. I mean, everything that's happening right now, these extraordinary numbers of people that we're bringing out, it's because of these heroic efforts by our troops and our State Department diplomats, young consular officers trying to sort through immigration paperwork. It's because of their heroism on the ground that we're saving so many people, not because anyone in Washington gave them a plan.
Representative Mike Waltz, a former Green Beret who also served in Afghanistan, went even further.
Just because we pull the troops out doesn't mean the terrorists are done with us. And that's my concern, is that we're about to repeat the nightmare that the nightmare movie, the horror movie that Obama did in Iraq when he pulled the troops out too soon. Al-Qaeda was still there. They morphed into ISIS. They marched across the Middle East, established a caliphate the size of Indiana, which launched attacks into Europe, inspired attacks into the United States, Pulse nightclub, San Bernardino, truck attacks in New York. We're about to repeat that again in Afghanistan.
Look, you don't have to be a military logistics expert to figure out the proper order for withdrawal. Donald Trump has been very vocal on the differences between his plan for withdrawal and this Biden-led disaster. First, you get out all the civilians, right? Our people. Next, the small number of near to 100% vetted allies like interpreters. Then equipment, then the remaining troops, and then you destroy whatever cannot be brought home and kept out of the hands of the Taliban. Pretty basic. Here's Trump in his own words.
Biden put us in this position. He should have gotten the civilians out first. Then he should have taken the military equipment. We have billions of dollars of brand new, beautiful equipment. Take the equipment out and then take the soldiers out. And frankly, I said, take the soldiers out, but before you leave, blow up all the forts, because we built these forts that are being now used by the enemy. It's not even believable.
Biden's plan, if you can even call it a plan, was to do the opposite. You know, to fail this miserably, one either has to try really hard to fail. I mean, you gotta put your back into it, or be so mentally hollowed out that your mind is just not functioning properly, or, and I'll just throw it out there, you are compromised by a foreign power who wants the United States to be defeated. Right now, the nation that stands to gain the most is China. Headline CNBC. China may align itself with Taliban and try to exploit Afghanistan's rare earth metals, analyst warns. Afghanistan is estimated to have trillions of dollars worth of rare earth metals, and countries such as China that may be looking to swoop in on the country must follow international terms, one analyst told CNBC. Shamila Khan, director of emerging market debt at Alliance Bernstein said the Taliban insurgents have emerged with resources that are a very dangerous proposition for the world, with minerals in Afghanistan that can be exploited. Remember, Joe Biden put a moratorium on rare earth mining in the United States. But we keep hearing this is the new and improved Taliban. I mean, they've learned a lot over the past 20 years. They're kinder, they're gentler. But maybe what they learned was a little business savvy. You know, they don't call Afghanistan the graveyard of empires for nothing. But China has been waiting in the wings. China is carving up Africa, African mining, for rare earth. And wouldn't you know it? Again, we're not allowed to mine rare earth here in the United States. Oh, no, we're not. They must be getting every penny's worth for that $1 billion they gave Biden's useless crackhead son. You know, the media told us that we had to vote out Orange Man bad. He was just a reality TV star, a huckster. He had no experience in complicated matters like foreign policy. What we needed was the steady hand, a person with experience.
I've covered the president when he was vice president, then he was senator, for 36 years. And so I know he always considered himself a real expert on national security, foreign policy. He was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We spent a lot of time talking in those days. And he always spoke when he was running for president as someone who understands national security and foreign policy.
Yeah, hi, Wolf. How's that working out? Let me give you some history. It was well known in Washington that Joe Biden was a dunce. When Donald Trump was tested, for example, when Iran shot down a U.S. drone, there were calls for retaliation. Trump called off airstrikes when he was informed there may be human casualties. Trump, who was committed to ending endless wars, was not going to start a new one with Iran. Did the media give him credit for restraint? No. No matter what Trump did, the media branded it in the negative. And it's not just Biden. His whole team seems inept. But they're really smart people, we're told. They've got fancy degrees, and they're respected in Washington. Here's the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, dealing with the savages that are taking over Afghanistan.
If a future government upholds the basic rights of the Afghan people, if it makes good on its commitments to ensure that Afghanistan cannot be used as a launching pad for terrorist attacks directed against us and our allies and partners, and in the first instance, if it makes good on its commitments to allow people who want to leave Afghanistan to leave, that's a government we can work with.
Who is this guy kidding? Well, since the Democrats and the media long for a Republican Party run by people like the late Senator John McCain, let's go back in time and hear what McCain had to say about Blinken in 2014.
Madam President, I rise to discuss my opposition to the pending vote concerning Mr. Tony Blinken, who is not only unqualified, but in fact, in my view, one of the worst selections of a very bad lot that this president has chosen. I hope that many of my colleagues will understand that not often do I come to the floor to oppose a nomination of the President of the United States, because I believe that elections have consequences. In this case, this individual has actually been dangerous to America and to the young men and women who are fighting and serving it. I'll move on to Afghanistan. Mr. Blinken said, quote, "We've been very clear. We've been consistent. The war will be concluded by the end of 2014. We have a timetable, and that timetable will not change." This is why I'm so worried about him being in the position that he's in. Because if they stick to that timetable, I am telling my colleagues that we will see the replay of Iraq all over again. We must leave a stabilizing force behind of a few thousand troops, or we will see again what we saw in Iraq.
Put all of this together, and this is the image we get from our president to sum it all up. So here's the argument. Afghanistan is Afghanistan. It's lost. We're losing troops to terrorist attacks, and our government has made the choice to leave Americans there and bring unvetted Afghans here. Look, nobody said the withdrawal would be easy and neat. Even if Donald Trump were president, there would be messy events. But there would be zero chance that Trump would trade Americans for random Afghans for evacuation. There's zero chance that the Trump administration would give the Taliban billions of dollars of high-tech military hardware. There is zero chance that 45 would hand over a kill list to animalistic savages to hunt down and kill Americans who are in hiding. For every screaming fit we saw from the Democrats and the media about Trump's alleged incompetence, well, it's all come true, except with Biden. Joe Biden has been in D.C. since 1973. We were told that we had to trade Donald Trump's mean tweets for an experienced, skilled politician who would bring sanity and order back to the White House. The media and the Democrats told us that Trump had to be removed via the 25th Amendment because he was so unstable. Donald Trump was impeached over a phone call. Now after 20 years, troops lost and billions spent, President Biden has his own version of MAGA. Make Afghanistan garbage again. Look, I don't even know if I would want to talk to anyone other than military veterans for this episode, not just because of Afghanistan, but as we look back 20 years, we're remembering 20 years of the fight against terrorism. Joining me now is an Army veteran and former New England Patriots defensive lineman, and he's announced he's challenging Arkansas Senator John Boozman in next year's Republican primary. Jake Beckett, welcome to the program.
Hey, it's great to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Look, we've been talking a lot on radio about your campaign and your career. Just talk to me as a veteran. I know that you deployed to Iraq with the 101st Airborne. Just give me your veteran's view and now candidate's view of the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Well, for every veteran, for everyone who's worn the uniform, look, this is infuriating to see a commander-in-chief who is so feckless, an administration that has shown such weakness and incompetence. And that weakness and incompetence has consequences. We've seen it in Afghanistan, with the 13 dead American servicemen who paid the ultimate sacrifice, laid down their lives in defense of this country. But it didn't have to be this way. Look, the administration, they abandoned the sound withdrawal plan that President Trump had in place. And they changed that for political reasons, and it was an absolute debacle. And I think the consequences of Afghanistan, we're still yet to see those. It's a dangerous world out there, especially when our enemies see total weakness at the top of our government, the top of our military. And look, I stand behind the armed forces, but look, we have a tough road ahead of us with this leadership in place.
Well, look, when you come out as the next senator from Arkansas, I mean, both of you, Tom Cotton and yourself, will both be, infantry veterans serving in the United States Senate. But, I'm watching other veterans in Congress, like Representative Mike Waltz, and a lot of veterans in Congress are saying it's not a matter of if, it's when we get attacked from Afghanistan again now.
Well, absolutely. I mean, not only will Afghanistan once again become a terrorist hotbed, four of the top members of their new Taliban government are terrorists, hardened terrorists who were set free by Obama from Gitmo. They should have been executed years ago when we had the chance. But look, I think the consequences of Afghanistan go far beyond that region of the Middle East. I mean, China is becoming more aggressive as they look towards Taiwan. The Iranians and North Koreans have already made moves since the Afghanistan debacle to accelerate their nuclear weapons programs. The Russians are looking towards Eastern Europe. Look, our enemies worldwide, they see weakness. It's like blood in the water, and they're going to keep making aggressive moves and testing us because we have no resistance at the top of our government.
I would assume that you would try to make your way to the Senate Armed Services Committee. I've seen a lot of veterans on social media calling to my radio program. They are disgusted at seeing these Taliban savages driving around in their vehicles, carrying their weapons, wearing their uniforms. And I've had no shortage of calls to my radio program, which again, you've been on multiple times, telling me that, encrypted radios are now in the hands of the enemy, that that nations like China, Iran, and Russia are going to be able to get access to our military equipment and reverse engineer it. I mean, they're going to have those up-armored Humvees and M117s and MRAPs. I mean, my God, Black Hawk helicopters, all of this stuff that should never land in the hands of people in flip-flops with AK-47s. They've got $80 billion plus of it. I mean, that is going to be a problem in the future.
Yeah, it's a problem for right now. It's a slap in the face to every American citizen, and especially a slap in the face to every American veteran and active duty serviceman. Because, look, when we see these images coming out of Afghanistan, look, they're using our stuff, $80 billion by some estimates of American military equipment, weaponry, vehicles, and combat aircraft. It's an absolute debacle. It's a disgrace to the American people. It's a disgrace. It shames the honor of this country. Look, our military has never been more deeply humiliated, in my opinion, than we have over the past couple of months under the Biden administration. And once again, you don't have to be Sun Tzu to understand that this is a tactical debacle. It's a strategic debacle, and it's a stain on the honor of our country.
You are coming to this race as a true conservative. I have talked to you extensively. One of the biggest problems we have, especially in the Senate, is the establishment, right? You've got senators, especially senators, Republican senators, they're always hard-charging conservatives when they're out of power. They talk about cutting the budget and cutting the spending and the taxes and securing the border and repealing big government programs. And then as soon as they get power, they say we've got to be bipartisan, pragmatic, we've got to be patient. And they don't really check off the list of conservative agenda items. The Democrats don't do that. They might not get to everything that the activists want in the order they want, but they do get to everything eventually. We need real conservatives in the Senate.
Absolutely. It's so crucially important, the point you just made, and I think millions of Arkansans and millions of Americans across the country are realizing it. It's not enough to take back slim majorities with guys who just have an R next to their name. You've got to have real wartime conservatives. This is wartime. Okay, we need people who understand the nature of the fight that we're in. Okay, nothing is going to change if we keep electing the same people and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity. We need real American leaders, warriors, champions, people who can move the needle, who can be difference makers, who can rally others to our cause, and can create a critical mass of new, bold, conservative leadership in Congress. Because unless we do that, nothing is going to change. But I have optimism. I'm seeing some exciting candidates rising up nationwide. I think this election cycle is going to be a wave election for Republicans and conservatives. People are fed up. They're not going to take it anymore. And I think this new generation of leaders truly understand what it's going to take to turn this country around and how we have to fight.
You know, I want to put some things together here. You know, you played in the NFL. Right now, there's a fight over players getting vaccinated. I see there's some coaches who are refusing. The stadiums don't seem to know what to do with themselves. I want to put this together with some of the things we're seeing at the border and the Afghan airlift. We're being told that we may have to show this COVID passport, show your papers to go about our daily lives or to even cross state borders. Meanwhile, unvetted, unvaccinated people are pouring into the country and disappearing. And we're being told because of the pandemic of the unvaccinated that we may have to face further lockdowns. This seems to be a conscious choice, right? We don't have to let in unvetted people. We don't have to have open borders and then use that as an excuse to lock down our freedoms. And that's one of the biggest fights we're going to have going forward, this fight over liberty and security.
Well, you're exactly right, and the hypocrisy is shameless. It's truly incredible how the administration, they treat the 2 million illegal immigrants who are going to come across our southern border this year alone. They give them immunity from our laws, and they treat American citizens with contempt. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think people are waking up to just the baseless half-truths we're being told from our government and our government agencies and our mainstream media. It's exciting to see a base of support here in Arkansas and nationwide, to be frank, of people who are just sick of these stupid restrictions that are taking away our freedoms. It's never made much sense. And when you see such gross, baseless, shameless hypocrisy from every major American institution, it should come as no surprise when people are just saying, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not complying.
All right, so I got about 90 seconds left. I know it questions my man card. I'm not the biggest sports fan. But how do you see the NFL going forward? I mean, first we had wokeness taking over, right? To the point where it was unenjoyable for millions of people to watch your beloved sport. Now this fight over vaccines. I mean, it's almost as if like the NFL went from this unique American institution to something that millions of people are turning away from.
Well, Americans have traditionally loved sports because at its best, it represents the best American values: meritocracy, hard work, people coming together from different backgrounds to strive towards a common goal. But now it's also divisive. Just the leftist ideology, the wokeness has infected that institution as well as most others in American life. It's a shame, but you're seeing the ratings in MLB, the NBA Finals, the World Series are the worst in the history of the events. The NFL is not bulletproof, but if they don't turn this thing around, people are going to turn it off for good.
Yeah, it's just a shame. It's just a shame that things that people enjoy, they find themselves not enjoying it anymore because of these near to suicide business decisions that some of these sports leagues and big corporations are making. I got to leave it there. Jake, we're going to be keeping tabs on you. We're going to be talking a lot between now and the 2022 midterms. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Take care. See you soon.
On a side note, while President Biden was in my state of New Jersey early this week, surveying damage left behind by Hurricane Ida, some of my fellow New Jerseyans, Garden State residents, were not exactly keeping quiet about their disgust with the president. Take a look.
Leave them in ruins and leave Americans behind. Leave Americans behind. He will leave you behind. Guys, protecting him. He'll leave you guys behind. That's great. Leave no American behind. Ronald Wiltrick buried in Arlington, 2011, December 11th. For what? He lost his life for what?
All right, look, I'm here in Texas, and I know what a lot of you red staters think, right? New Jersey, deep blue, Democrat friendly, home of Bruce Springsteen. Actually, I don't think he actually lives there anymore. But this is why I promote the idea of the state-based electoral college. You see, New Jersey's blue because of Newark, Camden, Patterson, and Jersey City. The other parts of New Jersey are actually part of the real America. Okay, our next guest is an Afghanistan war veteran, retired Army captain, and is now the Nevada GOP Senate candidate, Sam Brown. Now, I want you to take a look, before we bring Sam on, I want you to take a look at his story.
When I was in the 1st Infantry Division, our motto was, no mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great, duty first. These words are as true to me today as they were 15 years ago. A lot has changed since then, but not my commitment to duty first. After West Point, I had a mission: protect my men and make my country proud. In 2008, when my Humvee hit a roadside bomb in Afghanistan, I found myself on fire, burning to death. I was saved from that moment of terror and hopelessness by my gunner. Running through bullets and mortar fire, he reached out to me saying, "Sir, I've got you." The men I was determined to save saved me. That's duty first.
Sam, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
The story tells itself in that video we just showed. And this is something I've been doing on my program for quite some time, especially on radio. I've interviewed Josh Mandel. Just before you was Jake Beckett. I've been talking to veterans running for office, and I just want their unvarnished, I would like your unvarnished just take on what you saw, what your feelings were about the Afghanistan withdrawal and the way it went down, and the loss of the 13 service members?
Well, I'd say to start is that I can't believe this is where our country's at. And, leadership matters. It's, wholly on display right now that what Joe Biden's administration under his leadership and honestly, leadership from the Pentagon has done is not only just a travesty, but it's a national disgrace. I've said it before, and I continue to say that this feels like, and not just to me, but to other veterans, that, you know, this is almost a passing of a torch of the United States of America from being the leader of the free world to China. And the bottom line is, and Andrew, you know this, but military service members are oftentimes generationally serving. You know, I'm a third generation member of the military. And in fact, my father and my younger brother were both in Afghanistan. My wife and another younger brother served in Iraq. And so, you know, military service is just something that we grew up with, and many others did, was this expectation that we would serve in uniform. And there's many today who are saying, no more. We've lost faith, lost trust in our leaders, and our children and grandchildren will not go be a pawn in someone else's, some elected or unelected officials, foreign policy schemes or priorities.
It's scary that the administration failed so badly here. I mean, look, I'm not a military logistics expert, but if you were asking me, I'd say, well, probably you get our people out first, and then the handful of trusted Afghan interpreters out, maybe, and their families, and then you would get some equipment out or render it useless, and then you would take the forces out. I don't know how our leadership could fail so badly when even people with no experience with this, could get it right.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I've heard that same, the same basic process told to me by, folks who've never served in uniform. And one of the things that really infuriates me is when we have folks like General Milley or Joe Biden or Secretary of Defense say, the intelligence just, wasn't there, and this is all a shock to us that the Taliban moved as fast as they did, or that the government didn't stand up against this. Because, Andrew, here's the truth. I was there 13 years ago, and then I've talked to others who, and I was a platoon leader. I wasn't, it's not like I was some sort of colonel leading brigades or, big multinational missions. And I've had, folks who were there as NCOs say, look, this isn't surprising. The speed with which the Taliban took control over the country was nothing but expected. And the fact that the Afghan government would crumble is nothing but expected. And so either our senior leaders are lying to us, or their intelligence is awful, or they just don't know what it's like to actually be on the ground, and that really matters.
Well, they got fancy academic pedigrees, I'm sure, and they're really smart. Right now, and look, I see a lot of new candidates running as conservative Republicans with military experience. Like I said, Jake Beckett, yourself, Josh Mandel, a laundry list in the House of Representatives. Many female veterans are running. I don't know how this administration squares the open border and the Afghan airlifts of unvetted people with all of the lockdowns and crackdowns they want to impose on we the people. I mean, the time for people just with an R next to their name who are going to be part of the establishment is got to come to an end. If we don't have people who are going to defend liberty, freedom, and the Bill of Rights in this country, we're going to have big problems because we've got people that are using every single excuse to crack down on our Constitution.
Absolutely. It's encouraging to me to see others like myself standing up and at least making ourselves available. And I'll tell you, from my personal point of view, and I think that others must be feeling the same thing, is that the 22 election cycle could be a serious make or break year for this country. If the Democrats had one or two more senators right now, just think about the things they would be doing right now. Ending filibuster, packing the courts. I used to say that the spending bills would be larger, but they're so astronomically large already, and they're finding ways to jam it through. It's just what they're doing is destroying this country and the things that made it an incredible opportunity, made it a place that people wanted to raise their families, made it a place that people from all around the world wanted to immigrate here for that opportunity, for those freedoms. And so it was, I don't come from the right sort of family with the right, political dynasty name. I don't have millions of dollars that I can sink into this campaign on my own. But this is a desperate time, and we need leaders who will stand up for the right reasons and not because of some political opportunity to take back and lead this country. And if the American people are not able to see that, then at least we've done our part to make ourselves available.
You know, everything you just said is 100% right. If we don't get this border under control, if we don't stop the flow of people, the Democrats, if they have their way, and I'm running out of time here, we'll have to get you back soon, I'll get you on radio, they would love to just flood this country with millions of people, hand them ballots, and send them to the polls and say, hey, you know, vote Democrat. You know, you'll get a free house and free education for your kids and whatnot. If conservatives don't put an end to it, we're going to be in real trouble. That's why we need guys like yourself and all of the other conservatives, not just Republicans, running for office. I do have to leave it there. We will get you back. We'll be talking a lot. I'll be talking to you on radio soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, time now for parting shots. And today's parting shot is that all the left-wing elite supporters of California Governor Gavin Newsom. And hopefully that's the last time I have to say that, because the recall election is next week. And it's no secret, especially if you've been watching this program, that I'm in full support of the Republican candidate, my friend Larry Elder. But a few days ago, our favorite Massachusetts college professor, Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, joined Newsom for a rally to fearmonger. I mean, lend her support to Newsom. Watch.
Make no mistake. Larry Elder dreams of being California's own Donald Trump. And I don't know about you, but I will fight with everything I've got to keep from putting one more Donald Trump Republican in office.
That's right. She's doing the war dance. She's sending up the smoke signals. You know why? Because Democrats are terrified that Larry might win. And let me also say this to all of our California viewers. Please make sure you get out and vote before September 14th because, well, California needs conservative leadership. I mean, to borrow from Trump, what have you got to lose? But take a look at what happened just the other day to Larry Elder.
Touch me again. Don't touch her, me again. Don't touch her, mother. Don't touch me again. Pop him and mother. Touch me again. You up. What you do? You hit grab her ass, mother. You understand me, boy? Maria, rip your head.
Let me say the uncomfortable part out loud here. I thought any reference to black people and monkeys was literally the most racist thing that you can do. Right up there with pickaninnies and the N-word. And there you just saw a left-wing Gavin Newsom supporter assaulting a black man running for office wearing a monkey mask. Do you see the media outrage? Of course not. But that image, that's kind of like a deplorable moment, if you will, because there are going to be millions of voters who see that and they're going to be outraged. We're right. They're wrong. That's the end of the story. The arguments on this television program cannot be broken. Make sure you catch me on SiriusXM Patriot Channel 125, noon to 3 East, 9 to noon West. From Dallas, Texas, I'm Andrew Wilkow. Thank you for watching Blaze TV.